What's going on, everyone? I've been getting a lot of questions lately about how to weight cut for a powerlifting meet, and this is something that I've covered in the past back in, I believe, August of 2014, basically when I just started my YouTube channel. So I decided to redo the video, hence the title, Weight Cut Reloaded. It's going to be about specifically for 2-hour weigh-ins. And I actually brought in one of my good friends, Cauchi from Australia. I probably just butchered his name, as I always do. I think it's pronounced Cauchi, but I like saying Cauchi because it messes with his head, and nothing wrong with that. But anyways, JP is a 2-time junior world champion in the 66 kilo division, and man, can that guy ever cut weight. He literally walks around. Actually, he put up an Instagram post tonight. He's competing at the World Championships in Texas, 15 weeks out we are right now. He's currently weighing 74.5 kilos in the morning, and he competes at 66. So to put that in perspective, relative to his body weight, that's about almost 13% over his weight class that he cuts, which is a massive amount of weight to drop. If you think about the percentage being at 13% over the weight class, that's just insane. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of background. Normally when I cut weight, I cut from 77 kilos down to 74. That's what I did for, about 2 to 3 years of my competitive career in powerlifting. 77 to 74 using water manipulation is relatively easy for me. Then recently I competed at CPU Nationals, and I wanted to try something different. I wanted to try training heavier and cutting harder into the class like JP did. One thing that I always like to do, just to give you guys a little bit of background, is that whenever I come into a meet, I always try something different. I'm always trying one new variable, whether that's training, where it's the attempt selection that I'm doing. I try not to do the exact same thing in every single prep all of the time, because then there's no real room for improvement. You want to try and do things a little different, maybe train 5 days a week instead of 4, or bump from 5 up to 6, or 6 down to 4, something like that. Take different jumps, open lighter, go heavier in the second, and anything like that. I like to try and play with things, and I always try and learn something from each contest and find, okay, this works well for me, but this doesn't, so this can stay and that can go. And just try and figure out what works best for me specifically, because at the end of the day, we are all different human beings. We all have different things going on in our lives. Some of us can't train 5 days a week. They have to train 4 because they work overtime and night shifts and manual labor and yada, yada, yada. So anyways, let's now get back to the first part. The main portion of this video is going to be JP. And the reason that I wanted to bring him on is specifically because of his credentials, and he's also a very, very good coach. So if anyone is looking to hire a coach, I would definitely recommend JP as well. Brett and I both coach ourselves, and we're looking to expand and bring more coaches on board. So, but JP does it himself, and if there's anyone that I could recommend, hands down, it would definitely be JP. So I also want you guys to go sub to his channel after this if you can, and like his videos. In fact, on JP's channel, he does a very, very intricate video on the weight cut itself. That's on his channel, and I believe, if I can remember correctly, it's about a 9 to 12 minute video showing you step by step of exactly how he drops, I think he basically loses 4 kilos in about 48 hours. So he drops from 70 to 66 in about 2 days. And if you think about the percentage, that's a monumental percentage compared to his body weight. Because if you think of things like, you might hear people say, oh, a 2 kilo weight cut, that's nothing. Well, that's probably nothing for a guy who's 122 kilos making the 120 class. But if you think about a female who is only weighing 49 and needs to make the 47 weight class, well, that's a big damn cut. So you got to always look at the percentage and also compare males to females, because women naturally tend to biologically hold water. They have more water retentions, hormonal things going on at certain times of the month that makes them hold water more so than males. So typically in a powerlifting meet, if you don't make weight, it's no big deal. However, if you're in the IPF and you're at a large event such as an international event, maybe like the Arnold, North American Powerlifting Championships, Oceanies, or the World Championships, whatever weight class you put down, if you don't show up on weight that day, you don't compete. So there's actually been examples where people come in and just say, my division, if I sign up for the 74, if I don't make 74.00 or less, well, then I just flew all the way to, South Africa or Finland and spent thousands of dollars for nothing. So it's actually very important to learn how to cut weight, and not only cut weight, but cut weight properly, safely, and then refuel and hydrate. So that's why I wanted to make this video and get into talking about it again, because when I did it before, it was kind of vague, as someone pointed out recently. So let's assume that your powerlifting meet is on a Saturday, as 95% of powerlifting meets I've ever seen tend to be on a Saturday unless they're week-long championships. So I would track back. I would come back. My last heavy workout would basically be 1 week out on a Saturday. So if you think about it, that means I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's 5 days, and Friday, 6 days before I compete on Saturday. I would actually start my water load, therefore, on Sunday. I would start increasing my water intake. And because I'm not doing any more heavy workouts, well, now I don't need to be eating as much. I'm not going to be craving as much food because I'm not burning off as many calories. And I don't need the extra energy to get through those crazy workouts where you're lifting heavy amounts of weights when you're peaking and you're doing lots of volume, stuff like that. Depends what kind of system you're on, of course. In terms of water intake, on Sunday is when I'm going to start increasing it. And for the days leading into the event, I'm going to actually start pyramiding it up, or increasing my water intake daily until the day before. I would start off drinking 4 liters on Sunday. Monday, I would then drink 6 liters. Tuesday, I would drink 8 liters. Wednesday, I would drink 10 liters. And Thursday, I would drink 12 liters. So the last 2 days are when you actually really struggle. It gets really, really taxing on the body. Although that might sound silly, it is very difficult to consume 12 liters of water. And again, this is just what I've done, and this is what works for me. 12 liters of water 2 days out. The day before then, I drastically reduce. I don't cut it totally. I like to reduce it. So, for example, the day 24 hours out, I might wake up, weigh myself, and then just drink 2 to 3 liters of water during that day, throughout the day, just sipping on it, sipping as needed, and cutting the water then, depending on how heavy you are, a certain number of hours out. So, it depends. You have to time it, and you have to have a body weight timeline. That, please go to JP's channel, because he actually goes in an in-depth video on it. And again, this video will be way too long if not, and I know that you guys will really appreciate the content that he put out. I like to eat a lot of protein. So, for example, when I'm coming into the event in meet week, I literally eat like vegetables, and I eat a lot of chicken breast. Like just plain chicken breast. I might have a little bit of barbecue sauce or something like that on the side. Your meals are going to be pretty regular until about 48 hours out. And what I mean regular, I mean you can eat normal size portions. 48 hours out is when you're pretty much going to drastically cut down your food intake, which obviously, if you think about it, you're coming into an event, you're lifting the most weight you possibly can, and you're basically starving yourself and cutting weight. It is most definitely going to have an impact on your performance. But it comes down to the risk versus reward ratio. It's, well, do I want to just continue to lift at this weight and do what I can and go in the next class up, or do I want to cut down and struggle through making weight to win that world title? Because JP did that. I watched him in Finland basically go to the brink of death in order to make weight, and still came out and performed like a champion. And that's literally, it's all these little mundane details that people don't get to see. It's the behind the scenes stuff that make a champion. So that's why I wanted to bring JP on board of this video and highlight it. Hopefully you enjoy this video, guys. Ciao.
Hey guys, what's up? JP here. Putting this video together for my mate Josh, who's asked me to share a little bit of insight into what's the best kind of way to refeed after you weigh in for a powerlifting competition, or really any kind of competition where you have to kind of cut big amounts of weight. So he competed at the CPU Nationals where he cut, I think, like 4 or 5, might have even been 5.5 kilos. And he found it really hard to kind of refeed his way back up and perform at the highest level possible. So he's been getting lots of questions on how best to do so, and he's asked me to help him out on this. So when we're cutting weight, I made a video before on how to cut huge amounts of weight, which is really useful, but it's only as useful as it is if you can kind of replenish and compete back at the weight you were at the very beginning of the cut. Otherwise you'll be depleted and your performance will suffer. So when you think about the refeed itself, you need to have a strategy, you need to have some planning prior to the event. Now in the IPF we get a 2-hour weigh-in, which means the time between the commencement of weigh-ins and the commencement of lifting is only 2 hours. Not a very long time to replenish 4 or 5 or 6 kilos that you might have cut across 2 or 3 days prior. So we need to be really strategic, and how we refeed has to be really well thought out. So there's a couple of major considerations that you need to think about in your refeed. The 3 that I'm going to share with you is replace, avoid, and timing. Those are the 3 kind of areas, okay? When you talk about replacing, there's 3 things we need to replace. Sugar, because you'd be glycogen depleted, your amount of glycogen and sugar in your system will be quite low after a big cut. We need to replace electrolytes, so sodium and salts. And of course we need to replace water, because you did a big water cut. When it comes to sugar and glycogen, my go-to is honey. Honey is like super pure in sugar. It's really fast to digest. It's kind of liquid, obviously. So it digests really, really quickly. Within 10 or 15 minutes of ingesting honey, it'll be in your bloodstream because it absorbs straight through your stomach wall. So honey is a really good choice. I like to go with fruits as well, because fruits are really similar. I like fruits, I like apples and bananas. They're really, really useful. And of course, sports drink that have sugar in it. So that's kind of my go-tos when it comes to refeeding for sugar. Now when we're trying to replace sodium or electrolytes, of course, sports drink is really good. Now the issue with sports drink is they tend to be isotonic. Isotonic means that the electrolyte concentration in the sports drink is the same as it should be in your body. However, at the start of this refeed, your electrolyte level is actually quite low. So we really need something that's like higher in electrolyte concentration, right? Hypertonic, sorry. So like Hydrolyte is really good. You can get them at the chemist or even at most supermarkets, I think. They're the little things that you drop into your drinks, into your bottle of water or so. And then that'll have the fluid as having a higher concentration of electrolytes than otherwise would be in sports drinks. So they're really useful. Anything really that's high in salt, so like pretzels or salted chips are really useful as well. So that's really important when you're trying to replenish sodium and electrolytes. When it comes to replacing fluids, well, there's really not much better than fluid. Water or sports drink, that's kind of the best way. As a kind of note, sports drinks are really good to be sipping on throughout the competition. When it comes to avoiding, which is kind of the second major thing we need to think about, really the only thing that we need to avoid, in my opinion, is like fats. Fats are really slow to digest, they're hard to absorb, and they take a long time. So there's not really much benefit in having fats in your refeed because it's not going to get into your bloodstream straight away. It's really just taking up space in your stomach and in your guts that could go to more useful stuff. So avoid fats, avoid nuts. Nuts is a common area. People think, salted nuts would be really good, but they're also high in fat, so try and avoid that kind of stuff. When it comes to the timing, when you ingest all this stuff is really important, and the key is have everything as early as you can, like front load everything. So what I do is when I go into weigh-ins, I bring in 2 bananas, and I bring in a litre of water. So I walk into weigh-ins wearing nothing but my undies with my coach, Robert Wilkes. Robert signs all the forms and says what my openers are, and then I step on the scales in the nude. And then as soon as I step off the scales, these banana peels are already opened, and I wolf down these bananas, and I scull a litre of fluid. And then in the meantime, it takes another 2 minutes for Robert to sign all the paperwork, confirm that that's my body weight, confirm that those are my openers. I get kicked out of the weigh-in room, which Takes about a minute and a half, 2 minutes altogether. But by then I've already replenished a little bit. I started straight away. You don't really have much time to dawdle when you've only got a 2-hour weigh-in. You can't just walk out of the weigh-in room, take your time, grab your bags, find a corner. Like, that should already be planned. So front load everything, particularly sugars. Water absorbs really quickly, and you can kind of take that in later on during your refeed or during the competition itself. But front load everything. You want to have everything in your system within 10 minutes. You should, 10 minutes after you've weighed in, you should be full. Like, your gut should be full. Then you can have a lie down, maybe spend half an hour or an hour laying down, or resting, sitting in a corner, listening to music, whatever it is you want to do. But that's enough time for all this stuff to finally start to get into your bloodstream. Like I said, refeeding is a really important part of the weight cut. You can weight cut as much as you want. You can cut 10 kilos, but if you don't replenish yourself, you're going to underperform. Of course, this would vary a little bit differently if you had a 24-hour weigh-in. Really, you'd have a lot less thought put into it. It's not as critical, but on a 2-hour weigh-in, it's really important. So 3 kind of things. Think about what you want to replace. Those things are going to be sugar, fluids, and electrolytes. Think about what you want to avoid. It's got to be mainly fats is what you want to avoid. And think about the timing. Do everything at the start. The last thing that I'm going to add is that it's really painful to like refeed that much. Like, to eat heaps and heaps of food is really, really painful. So it's really good to have stuff that's palatable. So like, I really like chocolate. Chocolate tastes nice. I like it. So I eat chocolate. If you don't like chocolate, don't have it. If you don't like honey, don't have it. Because you're not going to want to eat it. Especially when you've just had 3 liters of fluid, 4 bananas, heaps of chocolate. You're not going to want to keep eating. So you're going to have to find stuff that tastes nice for you. The last thing I will add is bear in mind that powerlifting competitions go for a long time. Like, they can vary between maybe 3 and 6 hours. So it's all well and good to eat heaps at the start, but you need to maintain your energy throughout the entire competition. So I recommend, as well as all this stuff that you have immediately after your refeed, have some stuff that you can nibble on throughout the entire competition. So maybe have a sandwich, have some easy to digest chocolates in your bag, have some stuff that you can eat later on after your squats, after your bench press, before your deadlifts. Finally, a quick note on caffeinated drinks. I don't recommend taking a Red Bull straight away after your weigh-in, or any kind of like caffeinated drinks like that. Caffeine takes about 30 minutes to an hour for it to kind of peak in terms of blood concentration levels. So if you're going to have any caffeine, have it pretty much as you start warming up your squats. If you have it straight away, it's just going to interfere with digestion, and also caffeine's a dehydrant. It causes you to be dehydrated, right? It increases urination. So not the best thing to have at the start of your refeed. I recommend having all that stuff towards the end. Thanks for having me, Josh. Really appreciate it. If like I said, if there's any other questions, just let me know. Otherwise, thank you from down under. Catch.